Okay, guys, welcome back to the show. I've got a very special guest on the show today. She's the wife of the late, great Bruiser Brody. Her name is Barbara Goodish. Barbara, thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me, Morris. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, as you said, it's something a little bit different, a different accent anyway to talk to today on the podcast. Yeah. Look, if we rewind way back, I'd just like to find out how you met your husband and the backstory kind of behind that.
Well, I was in Australia in Sydney working in a hotel in Sydney, and we used to have all the American wrestlers would come over when they did the circuit of New Zealand and Australia. And I just happened to be working, and this was way back before, you know, internet, before YouTube, before this, being able to talk to everybody around the world. And as I was working there, I used to work the front desk every so often, and they would come, and you come to a strange country. This is back in the 70s. So you can imagine
Yeah.
how different everything was in the 70s. And they would get letters from their wives, and they'd show me the kids. They'd show me, the wives' photos and their kids' photos. And they became like big brothers to me. I mean, we had them all the way from, Andre the Giant, Don Morocco, JJ Dillon. I mean, I could just go on and on, about the people that were over in those days.
Yeah.
So this one night, they told me, and the person that was on the 3 to 11 shift did not turn up. So they took me into, I'd finished my work. They taught me, and well, look, we need somebody to, fill in. So I said, oh, well, why not? I'm not doing anything. So what happened was the boys, I'll call them the boys, were just coming back from their match. They'd gone to a match, and they were just coming back from their match. And I was just getting ready to leave. And they said, well, why don't you come up? It was an American gentleman that owned it was a Texas tavern. And then he had a bourbon and beef up the road. So they said, why don't you just come up to the bourbon and beef and have a drink with us? I said, well, there's 12 of them. It's not going to be okay. I mean, I already knew them. So, and as you know, when you work late at night, you're not ready. It's like working till 5 o'clock and going out and having happy hour. So
Absolutely. I know that.
Okay, I will. Okay, I'll go up. Well, we're sitting there. Frank was there. There was the Killer Cow Crop. I mean, I won't even go into all the names. And all of a sudden, one by one, they started to leave. And they'd say, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. In the finish, there was only 3 of us sitting at the table. And it was Frank, it was Killer Cow Crop, who has also passed, and me. And then all of a sudden, Carl gets up and leaves and didn't come back. Well, you know what happened? He went.
Yeah.
It told all the boys, I don't know how to ask her out, and I don't know, if she will come out. So, why don't we, as a group, ask her to come out? She's, just leaving work, but please just leave. Sit down, be comfortable, and just, leave one by one. And that's how it all started. And we just sat and talked there for, a long, long period of time. And he was in Australia for about, 9 months. So when he was getting ready to leave, he'd gone back to America, then came back to Australia. And when he was getting ready to go back to America, it's this. I mean, when you have a relationship with someone like that, you think, well, whether everybody told me, this is short time for them. They're going to be going back home. Don't think of anything more. And I didn't. And of course, I don't know if you knew, Frank kind of sometimes got into trouble once in a while. He was very, if you know a little, anything at all.
We've seen Dark Side of the Ring, and I've heard the stories and stuff like that. We'll get onto that later.
Yeah, so it didn't work out. So he came back. He came to see me. He said, look, I have to leave for America tomorrow morning. Okay, well, nice to know you. And he said, but I want you to come over. And he put this bunch of money on the table, no promises, no, just, I'd like you to come over. Well, if anybody knew Frank, he was frugal. I'll put the good word. He was very frugal. He saved his money. He was very frugal. So for him to put all this money on the table, not knowing, I mean, I could have just kept the money and stayed. But I think he knew me enough that I'm not the sort of person that would ever do that. So he left his money. So I knew, well, okay, I will go over to see where this goes. But of course, to get to America, you have to have a return ticket out of America. You can't just go into America. You've got to get visas and, things like that. So I thought, well, I've always wanted to go to London. I will book a ticket, from Australia to America to London. That was my ticket out of America. And I thought, well, if it doesn't, I've always wanted to see, London or England, Ireland, Scotland.
Yeah.
So I came over, and that's how we kind of met. And I came over, and I guess I'm still in America, even though things were not, as a things when things happen. But I'm still here, so I guess it worked out. This has been yes.
And you never made it to London.
Never. I'm still wanting to go. I'm still going to get over there because I have a niece who works for Wimbledon. And so I'd love to go over because she gets tickets to Wimbledon and everything. So she's always inviting the family over, come over, visit. And, so that's still, don't have much on the bucket list, but that is one of the things on the bucket list, to get over to that part of the world. I've seen a lot of the world, but I haven't been to that part of the world.
Yeah, and Wimbledon is like probably the most iconic venue for tennis in the world as well. Like, so you definitely enjoy that.
Oh, yes. And she's worked there for so long. So it'd be interesting to, have tickets and to have someone that knows everything.
Yeah, exactly. Look, one of the questions that I put this out like on the page, and people were wondering, like, what's your favorite memory of Frank in terms of a match?
I didn't go to many matches, but the one match that I did see, he went 1 hour with Ric Flair in St. Louis. It was, I think, one of his most iconic matches because nobody knew that he could wrestle that, because I just think of him as a brawler.
Yeah.
And,
Brawler, yeah.
And he went 1 hour, and people were just amazed what it was. The Japanese were filming that match because that's how they worked in Japan, because Japan is hard work. If you ever see any of the matches from Japan, and that they work
very physical.
Yep. And he worked with, him and Stan were very powerful, tag team partners over there. So the people in America really didn't know exactly that he could work like that, because the work over here was so different than what the work was in Japan. So when they did that, a lot of people, I still get it today. They'll talk to me about that match, because there's a match that, because of YouTube and everything, it's all over the place. So it's amazing, even after all this time, that people are still talking about. Well, it's amazing that people are still talking about him after all this time. And when I go to some of these, because I go to a lot of these wrestling conventions, they will take me to these wrestling conventions. And I'll have these people come up to me, young gentlemen come up to me, and they talk about everything. They've read my book. They know all about Frank. They'll have a tattoo of him on their body somewhere. And I'll ask them how old they are. And they were not even born when he passed. And it's like, this is a whole new generation that have discovered who he was. And that kind of, all these, as I said, and other people that they'll come up and tell me stories. And it's like, they remember seeing him like at the airport, because as I said, they would say we were just, we were young, and here's this monster going through the airport, and we're a bit scared and hide behind my dad's leg. And he would come over to them, and he'd get on his knee, and he would talk to them. And he said, to this day, they realize that you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't, it's what is here and what a person is, not how they look a lot of times.
Yeah, and you have to remember that back in the day, these guys were taking their roles on TV and stuff like that very serious as well. Like, and they had a certain persona. Obviously, they call it kayfabe or whatever. But a lot of these guys were different men behind closed doors, as you can testify from knowing them personally as well.
Yeah, because that's how it was. I always told him that if you saw Dark Side of the Ring, you'll hear that I said the same thing, that I could see him change. When I took him to the airport, he'd get out of the car, he would go through the airport, and I saw him become Bruiser Brody. And then I saw him when he came back from a trip. As soon as he got out of the airport, he would change and he'd be dad and a husband. And the difference in the two people were phenomenal. He never, I think that's why he was successful and why he's still remembered. He never lost track of who he was. He only became Bruiser Brody as a business, not as a personality. He always remained Frank Goodish. And I think that's how, as I said, because it still amazes me today. I just get amazed that people are still remembering him today.
And I was actually born in 1988, would you believe? So there you go.
Hey, that was when his son was born.
Yeah. We're going to have a look at this. We're going to have a look at this amazing new figure now. And you can tell people about it because you know the finer details where people can get it.
Yeah. This is the website is powertownwrestling.com. They say we're wrestling always, we're wrestling still lives. Now, this figure was part of a pack of 6. He was one. They had 6. They had Luthiers, Vern Gagne, Frank, Stan, T.A. Magnum, and Kerry Von Erich. And they produced them for a Kickstarter as a pack of 6. And then you can buy them as 3s or you can buy them as individual figures.
Yeah.
Right now, they're just getting ready they've already done the Kickstart. So they already have all the orders ready when they get the merchandise to send out. Then they are going to start offering them individually again. And then they're trying to do a deal with different people too, because you can't just let that figure be the Kickstart. You have to bring it out into the real world. And they're also going to be doing figures like before with a different, how he was in the very beginning, before he had that persona. So it's a really marvelous. These Powtown have really been marvelous. And one of the partners is Greg Gagne, which is the son of Vern Gagne, which was the promoter up there in the Minneapolis territory. So, and then the other one is, there was one called in the old days the Remco figures, which is not as good as what they bought this one, but they're bringing back the Remco figures too. And they have got over 100 plus wrestlers signed up, even the ones that didn't quite make it up to the very top. So they're trying to give back, because in the wrestling community, there is no benefits. There's nothing, once you're out of the wrestling, and everybody is hurt from the time they've wrestled and the time that they have finished their career. They are hurting. And sometimes it's very hard. They get into financial difficulties. So they're hoping that to produce some of these figures, that they'll be able to create some money for the retired wrestlers. And I'm also part of an organization called the Cauliflower Alley Club, which we have a convention every year. And that is for any of the wrestlers who get into trouble. They can come to the Cauliflower Alley Club, or put a thing in, and they can get money to help them in a really bad situation. It's a non-profit, and it's to help. It's about the only thing. There's not too many things that the retired wrestlers have these days. And as we know, life is hard. Life, as I said, is hard. So it's too good. The Powtown Wrestling is going to help people, and then the Cauliflower Alley Club is going to help wrestling. And it's a great convention every year. We have it in Vegas. It's like 3 days, and we get a lot of the fans. It's for fans, and there's awards. Frank got an award there. And if anybody in America, or anybody that sees this, look us up too on the website and join us. It's a very small fee, and you get 4 magazines a year.
Yeah.
And it's just a really, it's a really good organization. So we're talking about the 2 good organizations that help. And, today you want to help. You want to, try help the people that need a little bit of help, because they gave so much pleasure to people performing for them.
Yeah, and Brian Blair was actually on my podcast last year, and he was filling me in on everything there. Very, very good guy, and he's one of the main guys that's running that, isn't he, as well?
Oh, yeah, he's the president. Yeah, he's the president. Yeah, I love Brian. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's the president right now.
You know,
And I think,
he told me a really funny story about how he knows Carol Baskin, you know, from Tiger King.
oh,
Ask him about that one when you see him. It's a good
I
story.
will ask. Yeah, I'll probably be seeing him not too much longer. I will
Yeah,
definitely ask him.
ask him about that. But in terms of the figure, it's nice to have kind of. I know there's various different pieces we'll touch on, but isn't it nice to have kind of something to honor his legacy as well? You know, something to look back on, similar to the book, which we'll talk about in a while as well.
Yeah, it is. And what they've done the chain, which of course is what he was, done the jacket, done the boots. I mean, they've just done so much realistic, holding the chain, got the bow, how he used to wear his arm braces and the knee pads. It's so real. You know what I mean? It's real. I've seen a lot of figures of him, but nothing like what this one is. As I said, I told them when they asked me about it, it was kind of, well, there's a lot out there, but they said, don't worry, this is going to be something that you will be proud of. And yes,
Yeah.
it's very, and as I said, powtownwrestling.com, they'll have all the information. They have all the information. They'll have all the information on that too.
Yeah. So look, after a while, I suppose, like I seen you on Dark Side of the Ring, which we'll talk about in a while. Obviously, you're part of the book. So how did you end up kind of getting sucked into the business then from someone that wasn't involved in it at all? Like you kind of ended up becoming somewhat involved in it, didn't you?
Well, after it happened, I lost my wrestling family. I just stayed pretty much away from everybody. Then in 2014, the two people that kept in touch with me was Stan Hansen, Buck Robley. There was just a few. And then I have friends like Tony Guerrera, who I know has also been on your podcast.
Yeah, very nice guy. Yeah.
I've known him for over 40 years, 40 plus years. So I had just a few people that kept in touch with me. And then 2014, I got notification. I did a show, one of the first shows I ever did. It was up in Amsterdam, New York, the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, when it was up in New York. And from that, it kind of snowballed. That was the first one I went to. Stan was there, so I felt comfortable with Stan. Then I did
Yeah.
one. Then I did one in Fort Worth, and at the Fort Worth show, they surprised me. They had a big banner of the CAC. That was when they told me that he was getting an award at the CAC that year. And it kind of snowballed from there. And then all of a sudden, I found my wrestling family. It was just like finding family. It was so good just going, talking to everybody. They're telling me stories. And it was just, I mean, I have to admit, it was life changing because I was pretty much, because we were lived in the country. Sometimes a lot of people didn't know who I was married to. He was just,
Mm.
wrestling. We didn't have a lot of TV back in those days. So they, they would see him, and then a lot of times they wouldn't, and they didn't really realize. And then, of course, when it happened, there was a little bit of publicity, of course, going on, and then
Yeah.
a lot of people that didn't know knew. So it was kind of, I don't know what it was. It was just really incredible. And now I go to quite a few shows a year. And Herb Simmons, who is in just outside St. Louis, he's had a Bruiser Brody memorial show. So he has this memorial show that I go to every year where they honor Frank. And it's funny. They still huss when I get in the ring to give a little talk. In the beginning, I was so afraid, and so, because not being used to, doing any talking or anything. They said, just look out,
Yeah.
just don't worry. I won't say what they told me to tell people. Just look out in the audience.
I can imagine.
I'm not going to say anything.
You could say
Just,
what you want. There's no holding back here.
so it was like, and like I said, it was just, and to do that, and then like I said, I found the family and found some really good friends, and lifetime friends, and connected with people that I knew in Australia. That was 40, that was 78 when I left, so it's 40 plus years ago. So life sometimes throws you some curves, but then sometimes the circle comes round, and it's like,
Yeah.
as I said, now with Dark Side of the Ring, I know you want to ask me.
Yeah.
The
That's
thing,
yeah,
the thing with that, I couldn't believe. I mean, they were so great, Jason and Evan. But the thing that they did was, my son has never talked about wrestling, has never done anything. They got him to talk. The first time he has ever done anything was on the dark side of the ring. And I think because he felt comfortable, the Jason and Evan were about his age. They got on really good. And I'm sitting there doing the interview. And then they turn around and asked them, said, "Hey, Jeff, why don't you say a few words?" I could not believe. I was, as I said, I told them that was really, I think that was really healthy, because, I mean, he was 7 years old.
yeah,
And
yeah. Of
that's a
course.
pretty traumatic thing that he did. That's why he kind of blames wrestling. You know what I mean? Because that's took his dad away.
Yeah, yeah, and that's probably understandable in the way that you kind of went out of it for a long time as well. You know, that's more than understandable. But when that was being made, because the kind of show it is, did you have any reservations about how the outcome would look?
Of course, you know,
Yeah.
because I didn't know how. Yes, I didn't know, because once you're on that, you don't know how it turns out. As we know that there's a
Hmm.
lot that goes on. You'll do something, but then it gets turned all around. Like the book, somebody else wrote a book. Well, there was so much untruth in the other book that the person wrote that, you know, you just don't know. That's why, not to change subjects again. That
Yeah,
I
no,
know
we're
you're
going to
saying
talk
that.
about that anyway as well, so it's all
Yeah.
good.
So with the book, it was Larry Matisak, who Frank trusted so much. Larry was, you know, Sam Muchnick,
And
Larry, and Herb Simmons.
that's this book.
Yeah, and I got it behind me too. That's
Yeah,
right. You
yeah,
got it. Didn't even.
yeah,
Yes. And Larry's also, rest in peace. He's also gone. But when he approached me, the other gentleman had approached me, who wrote the book before my book, and I said, no, I'm not going to write a book. It took me a while till I could talk about it. You know what I mean? Now I can. I couldn't, you know, you go into a funk, you just go into, your head just goes, you just forget, you know, you just don't want to talk about it. You don't want to think about it because of what happened.
yeah,
And then after that, Larry approached me and he said, look, there's only two people that know the truth. I said, you know the truth. I know the truth. He'd already written a couple of books on other wrestling things. And I said, well, I would do it with you because I trust you. I can't write, but he said, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is write the truth. Because when you write the truth, you talk the truth, you don't have to worry. It will be a truthful book from the personal side to the wrestling side. So I did. He helped me write it, and we'd send back and forth. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good, just like Dark Side of the Ring. You know, I'll have to say this. There maybe is a couple of little embellishments on there, which is natural. Nothing bad on some of the interviews, but everybody wants to. It's wrestling. They're going to put themselves over. You know what I
hmm
mean?
yeah. And of course, like for something like TV as well, there has to be that bit of added
Oh,
drama. You know, I was on Vice's documentary of Vince McMahon. They used a clip from an interview with a wrestler, Mario Mancini. I don't know if you know him, but they used a clip. I'm not going to say what it was about. I'll tell you off camera because I don't want to bring attention to it again. But they used some pretty controversial words that were said about something that happened and it's been in the news recently. And people, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
okay. You have to tell me later.
I will. I'll tell you later. But the Hall of Fame story um, from years ago that I seen on when Hannibal interviewed you. It's kind of mad. Like, so for people watching this that don't know about the WWE Hall of Fame story, just enlighten me. I know the story, but I just for people that haven't heard it because it's pretty crazy.
Well, I'm just looking on Facebook, you know, and somebody put congratulations to Bruiser Brody going to the WWE Hall of Fame. I went, oh, somebody's got it all wrong. What the hell are they talking about? Excuse me. What the hell are they talking about? And I checked and I checked and I checked and I went, what the blazes? Then I called somebody and they said, yes, he's going into tonight into the WWE Hall of Fame Legends. Well, what is that? Nothing, you know. And the funny point is, I went to Charlotte to the, it was what, the gathering, I think it was. And I met Karen McDaniel, Wahoo's widow. Same thing. She was exactly the same what happened to me, because Wahoo went in at the same time that Frank went in to the WWE Legends Hall of Fame, which is kind of like nothing, because she was really, really mad because I didn't know this. She said, we didn't get a ring. We didn't get any money. They just used their names and put them into the Legends Hall of Fame. So, yes, that was funny that we became friends instantly because we had the same. It was like, that was the first time I had met Wahoo's widow, Karen. It was
So
like,
did you even get maybe a certificate? Nothing at all from WWE, you know?
nothing, absolutely nothing. It was like it didn't even happen. And if I hadn't have seen it on Facebook, somebody congratulating him, I wouldn't even have known. That all just went on. I wouldn't even have known that, that is there. I didn't get a chance to get dressed up in a nice outfit, and but hey, that's life. You just gotta let it. Whether we know things aren't always fair in life, as I have found out several times in my life, but you can't let it drag you down. Otherwise, you just give up living. I've known people that when bad things have really happened to them, that they have they've lived in the past. They've stayed in the past. They can't get over. We all suffer from bad situations, but the point is, you don't forget. It's still there, but you just have to move forward, because that's what they would want, to move
Yeah.
forward and not be depressed and stuck in a path that it's sad. I mean, it's sad. The couple of people that I know that are there, I mean, it's really sad because you can't even really talk to them, because all it is, they're still living in the past. And you have to, and that's why I try to tell people. And then when things happen, you just have to. It's not overnight, believe me. It definitely isn't overnight. It took me a while, but I moved on, and now I get to talk about him, and he's still and still like he's still here. That's what sometimes it's strange, because he has his
Keeping
own
the legacy
Facebook.
alive.
He has his own Facebook pages that I monitor to make sure that there's nothing really bad. He's got two different groups, thousands and thousands of people that are, in this group. And what it is, it's so cool, because I see pictures of him like in Japan, not wrestling pictures, pictures that he's out there drinking beer, or at the, doing things, or on a boat or something, things that I never knew about, and things that made him ordinary, that people have as a picture that they're posting. So I see all the
Yeah.
different pictures of all the different places he's been, and just regular pictures, not just wrestling pictures.
Yeah, I had Dangerous Danny Davis on the podcast. He was my last guest there on Monday, and I said to him, Danny, would you like to go into the Hall of Fame? And what he said to me was kind of like what we were just talking about. He said to me, they'll put me in when I'm dead because it won't cost them any money.
Yeah,
That's what he said to me.
I
And
know, because
I said, do you really believe that? And he said, yep.
that's what's happened. Me and Karen can attest to that.
Yeah. Well, that's what Danny told to me. It wasn't the answer I was expecting, but I was just like, well, okay, he went there. So what's current day-to-day life like for you then, Barbara? What do you get up to?
Well, I usually I have a really good friend who is a musician, so I get to hear a lot of music. I do Tai Chi, I do yoga, I do, different things, keep busy, so it's just kind of, living day for day, because sometimes that's all you have to do, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring, you know. And I'll tell you something. That's why I've got my glasses on. I'll tell you something after but yeah, because it doesn't matter. You get things thrown at you all the time. So I just try to be the best I can, keep busy, And just, hey, when you get old, what else can you do? I
Have you
didn't
got?
forget. It's my birthday coming up on the 5th, and I thought I was younger than what I was. I kept saying to
Yeah,
someone,
I could never remember my age. I'm
yeah,
34 now, but
yeah,
yeah, I feel 21. It's all good.
yeah. I'm 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 only going to be this way. And somebody was looking at me and said, no, when were you born? Well, 49. No, you're going to be a lot older. No, you're not. I said, what? I'm older than what I thought I was?
Someone has wished you a happy birthday in advance here.
Oh, thank you.
Quick off the mark.
Thank
Have you
you.
got any have you got any conventions or anything in the pipeline, or what's your plan, say, for the rest of this year?
Well, coming up in the first weekend, the 6th of May. I'm pretty good to the 6th of May. That's when they start. The 6th of May, going to New Jersey. There's a big convention in New Jersey with Tommy. Then the next weekend is Herb Simmons, Bruiser Brody Memorial, where he's having a huge big convention with so many. I won't go through into all the people, but there's so many different people that are going to be there. It's going to be a big convention. Then July, Waterloo, Iowa. There's another Hall of Fame there, the Dan Gable Hall of Fame, Luther's Hall of Fame
Excellent.
in July. Then I think it's August is the gathering in Charlotte. And I know I probably left out a couple, but that's the ones I've got right now. Oh, and then of course also August is we're having it the last weekend is the CAC in Las Vegas.
So
So
busy times ahead.
that's busy times ahead. So yeah, and like I said, it's really good because I get to see everybody, and it just I hear all the stories. I like the fans; they'll always come and talk to me, and of course I've got a Facebook page, and I try to keep up with the fans there. And I always like to remember, like when I go to conventions, I always like to put on my Facebook page who's going to be there. You know,
Just to see, yeah.
yeah, who's going to be there, mainly so I can look at their profile. So when they come up, I like to be able to call them by their name because I know that, it's like, well, hi, John. Nice. You know my name. Yes. Because I like to do that personal because I know sometimes how that means is the being personal
Personal,
with
yeah.
people. It's just a little bit. It doesn't take much to kind of give people a little happiness in life.
Exactly. And look, what I will do is I'll put the Facebook pages underneath this video and the link to the figure and the link to the book. And if people want to check it out, they can. Where's the best place to get all the Brody content, really? Would it be the Facebook groups?
Probably the Facebook groups, because a lot of them go in whether there's any figures coming out or whether there's anything going on. And I always post on there too. Like I've got a big poster now that I'm going to be posting on there for a herb show in the 13th and the second weekend in May. I think it is the 13th of May. So I post a lot of the things on when I'm going anywhere or anything like that. And a lot of people will post information. And I think somebody, they'll put like YouTube ones on. I see things, as I said, I go there to find out too.
Yeah, stuff you haven't seen even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best is the Facebook pages, and anybody can contact me and leave me a message on my Facebook page, Barbara Goodish. I'm just under my name. So I'd love to hear from people, and I think that would be, what I mean, great. Because I like to talk, especially, as I said, you're across the sea. You're a long way away. I'd
Yeah,
love
and
to.
here we are talking live, like across the sea. Like it's crazy, isn't it? Really, what you can do now.
I know. I'd love to have some people come over, because then if I ever visit, I might have a few people I can contact and visit.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people on this podcast, and I'm saying, come to Ireland. We'll go for some beers. That's what we do over here.
Oh, you gotta have beer.
Yeah.
What
So look,
what
Barbara,
beer do you what
what
beer do
beer
you
do I
drink?
drink? I
Yeah.
don't drink Guinness. I drink Guinness maybe sometimes, but it's too heavy for me. I actually drink Carlsberg, which is a Danish
Oh,
beer. So
I've had that one too. No,
yeah.
my dad, when he was alive and I used to visit him, he always would make me drink a Guinness. Because the doctor told him The doctor told him to drink a pint of Guinness a day.
Yeah, did he? Yeah, that's a thing over here as well. It's good for your iron levels, apparently.
Yeah, and so I would go there and visit, and he'd make me sit down and have a little bit of Guinness. So,
Okay, so you're pretty much Irish then as well. That's grand.